With Chiefs quarterbacks and rookies reporting to training camp today, Patrick Mahomes did not hold back regarding his expectations for their first-round pick and wide receiver Xavier Worthy. And in this video, I'll talk more about that as Mahomes and Andy Reid spoke to the media, why the Chiefs should consider making Butker the highest-paid kicker in the NFL, injury updates, and more. But first, how about those? All right, first up, before we get to training camp starting for rookies and quarterbacks, as well as Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes speaking with the media, it was reported today that 49ers wideout Brandon Aiyuk has officially requested a trade after an offseason of unsuccessful attempts to reach an extension. And as a Chiefs fan, just like any other fan base really, I'm over here trying to make the unrealistic scenario of my team, the Chiefs, trading for Aiyuk possible. After all, McCole Hardman and Hollywood Brown are on one-year deals. Kadarius Toney and Justin Watson are on the last year of their contracts. Sky Moore has 2 years left on his deal, but could be cut or traded if he underperforms at camp. And that leaves you with just Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy, as those I would consider very safe to be on the roster next season. Outside of those two receivers, that's about it. So yeah, a Brandon Aiyuk trade would be very fun and probably help greatly in the team's quest to a three-peat, but I think this would be very unlikely to happen. First off, the 49ers would have to be willing to trade with the Chiefs, a team that's beat them twice in the Super Bowl since 2019, so I really doubt they want to help make an enemy even better on the offensive side of the ball. Then, the Chiefs would need to be willing to give up who knows how much trade capital for Aiyuk, maybe a first and a late-round pick, a second, maybe you could get away with a second and a couple more. And then on top of that, you would need to be able to sign him to some sort of a fair market long-term contract. Maybe a contract like Michael Pittman's $23.33 million average per year would be an ideal range for me, though Aiyuk would probably want as much as humanly possible. Even for that price, I still think the Chiefs will continue the trend of drafting receivers in the first or second round and signing free agents to smaller one-year deals, at least until Travis Kelce is closer to, for sure, retiring. You can continue getting away with stuff like that when you have the best tight end in football on the roster, a tight end who produces like a top receiver for half the price. Once Kelce is done, though, I'm not sure KC will keep getting away with it, and I'm sure they know that as well. And even if the Chiefs were all in on a trade for Brandon Aiyuk as their wide receiver 1 or 2 of the future and willing to pay him what he wants, the 49ers again would still need to be willing to trade him. Just because a player requests a trade doesn't mean he will get what he wants. In fact, Adam Schefter reported shortly after this news broke, quote, sources, other teams that have reached out and spoken to San Francisco have been told that the 49ers have no intention of trading disgruntled wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk, who officially has requested a trade. 49ers open training camp next week. So yeah, I don't think the 49ers are budging. Aiyuk is on the 5th year of his deal, the 5th year option of his deal, set to make around $14 million. And I seriously doubt he's going to hold out and miss out on that kind of money, especially if the 49ers, who are already paying the most of any team in the league to their wide receiver room, have no interest in signing him long-term at this point in time. They could also franchise tag Aiyuk next season, so even if Aiyuk wanted to test the waters of free agency next year, the 49ers hold all the leverage and have all the power at this point in time. Therefore, I think it's best to shut down the idea, at least for now, of Brandon Aiyuk coming over to the Kansas City Chiefs. Next up, it was announced yesterday that the Browns reached a 3-year, $15.9 million extension with their kicker, Dustin Hopkins, putting him top 5 in highest paid kickers in the NFL. That, of course, then got me thinking about Harrison Butker, who is currently on the last year of his contract, with my question being, will the Chiefs do what they can to lock him up long-term? In order to do that, they're probably going to have to make him the highest paid kicker in the NFL, or at least very close to it. This year, he's got a cap hit of $4.8 million with his APY based on his current deal being around the $4 million mark. He's also only 29 years old and one of the best kickers in the NFL. Justin Tucker, for example, is I think around 35, so 6 years in age difference from Butker to Justin Tucker. Now, some might argue with me about Harrison Butker being the best kicker or very close to the best kicker in the NFL, and if you want to disagree there, you're going to be wrong, because if you look at all kickers with a minimum of 100 field goal attempts, the most accurate kicker ever is Justin Tucker at 90.2%, then the next player on this list is none other than Harrison Butker at 89.1%. Sure, he sprained his ankle at the beginning of the 2022 season, but healed up and had a very strong 2023, a season I would say earned him the team's MVP award due to how many times he bailed them out of games, thanks to the defense's help as well when the offense couldn't score touchdowns. Butker had the third highest PFF grade in the league last year of all kickers, going perfect on all 46 of his extra points. He had the second highest field goal percentage, only behind Nick Folk, going 44 for 46. And if that wasn't enough, Butker was 8 for 8, perfect on field goals between 40 and 49 yards, and then also a perfect 7 for 7 on field goals that were 50 or more yards. Then he also logged the longest field goal in Super Bowl history when he drilled that 57-yarder against the 49ers in Super Bowl 58. This man is still in his prime and could possibly only get better, and therefore, I think it is worth it if the Chiefs find a way to keep Butker around for years to come. Make him the highest paid kicker in the NFL. That's fine with me. I don't really care where you lean on the political spectrum. If you say no, Butker needs to go because of his political views, shame on you. A dependable kicker that's lethal from long range is often the difference between a win or a loss in close games. And that's why my hot take is that the Chiefs will make Harrison Butker the highest paid kicker or very close to it once all is said and done. Sure, you could go through the draft and get another young guy to save some money, but it's not that much money at the end of the day, guys. $6 million a year or somewhere around that. I think they can find a way to make that work. Some may be of the opinion that there's no way they pay Butker top of the market money because they just let Tommy Townsend go elsewhere this past offseason, and he was one of the best punters in the NFL. Well, since 2018, the Chiefs have kicked the fewest punts of any team in the league with 298. The next three on this list are the Cowboys with 338, the Ravens with 350, and the Bills with 352. Therefore, there's no need to pay a punter a large amount of money when you barely punt the ball. Instead, pay the kicker to help score even more points. Since 2018, the Chiefs are 7th in the NFL in points scored from field goals and 1st in the NFL in extra points made since Mahomes became the starter. And that's why I hope the Chiefs do end up locking Harrison Butker down for years to come. He's a pivotal piece to the team's success, backed up by the stats I just provided here in this video. But with all that being said, do you guys agree with me here or not? Should the Chiefs do what they can to keep Butker around, even if it means making him the highest paid kicker in the NFL? Or do you think they move on from him and find someone cheaper that maybe they need to develop? Let me know either way in the comments down below. Next up, quarterbacks and rookies arrived in St. Joseph today, gearing up for training camp, and both Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes spoke to the media today. Mahomes said they are back with the same mentality as the year prior. It's time to get better. Even though, yeah, they won a Super Bowl last year, they still didn't play their best football, especially on the offensive side of the ball. The season wasn't fun with them trying to get better week after week to what seemed like very limited success. Mahomes said once you win a Super Bowl, you want to keep winning them, and he honestly seemed as hungry as ever as QB1 continues to enter his prime in the NFL. Andy Reid added that they all know the team had their ups and downs throughout last season, but they ended on a high note. The goal now is to pick up where they left off and get better. As a coach, he can't ask any more from Mahomes, who, despite the success, is always looking to become a better version of himself, asking Andy and the other coaches, how can I get better? What can I do to improve? With that being said, Mahomes is ready to get after it and is extremely excited about the newly built team this year. They have a lot of speed added to the offense, and regarding the first-round pick Xavier Worthy, Mahomes said even though he basically missed all of OTAs, there's no easing him in. He's got to be ready to go this season.
There's no easing. Like he's going to have to get out and be ready to go. We got a lot of competition on this offense, and Xavier, I mean, he got a lot of mental work in these last few weeks that he had during OTAs and minicamp, but it's time to go now. And I mean, y'all saw it with Rashid last year and some of the throwing up days he had. I mean, we're going to push you to the limit and prepare yourself to be ready to go.
Andy Reid added that OTAs was driving Worthy crazy as he had to just stand there and watch. He's definitely ready to go, but Andy said they don't just want him to re-aggravate that hamstring, as there's plenty of time at camp to get work in. Hearing Mahomes say, hey, we're not easing this guy in once the season starts. He's got to be out there and ready to go and contribute on the offense. That got me all the way hyped up on Mountain Dew. More on Worthy's hamstring injury later in this video as I dive into Andy Reid's injury report. But for now, let's talk Jared Wiley. He's another offensive weapon to watch out for, with Mahomes saying they're going to test his athletic ability, push him hard, and see all that he can contribute in this complex Andy Reid offense. He's done a great job so far during OTAs, but there's a lot to handle being a tight end in this style of offense. They then transition to talking about training camp. It's a time to build rapport with all the guys, get better by facing Spags' talented defense every single day. Then you're away from the family. You're away from your friends, your families, you're packed into dorm rooms, and that helps them remain focused on the task at hand without distractions. However, Mahomes did say that for the first time in his training camp history with the Chiefs, he brought a TV because he wants to play some NCAA and watch the Olympics. Mahomes also talked about he and Brittany expecting baby number 3, saying this is the last one they're gonna have.
Yeah, I'm done. I'll say that. No, 3. I said 3, and I'm done. So no, it's awesome. I always wanted to have kids young. I got to grow up in the locker room. I think I've talked about it before, and it made such an impact in my life.
Well, congrats on baby number 3. Andy Reid himself then weighed in on training camp. He likes to have a tough training camp with little conveniences for players because this is a tough sport. So it's important now, early on before the season starts, to develop that mental toughness, getting them in football shape both mentally and physically in order to get the team to perform at their best and be able to draw from these tough moments back at training camp when they're going through something insane during the season. Then, when asked about his expectations on the Rashee Rice suspension, there wasn't much here, but here's what Big Red had to say.
Yeah, I don't know that. I haven't heard anything up to this point, so I just let all the people in charge do that are looking over that part of it.
So basically, no Rice update at the moment, with the legal process still continuing to play out. The longer it plays out, though, the more likely Rice could find himself playing this season and getting suspended sometime during the 2025 season. So we shall see how things play out before the start of the season and what the NFL decides to do with him. Next up, Mahomes was asked about the left tackle battle between Kingsley Suamataia and Wanya Morris. Regarding Kingsley, the rookie, Mahomes said it won't be perfect every single day, but they expect the left tackles that are competing to bring forth their best effort on every single snap. It's going to be a fun competition between Kingsley and Wanya, and Mahomes is excited to see which guy is going to rise to the occasion. Now, from here, Andy Reid, at the beginning of his presser, spoke to the media about all of the injuries. He said that BJ Thompson is going to start out on the NFI. He's still going through procedures, but is doing great so far. And as he progresses through that, Big Red said he will keep us up to date on how he's doing. Then for the players that are dealing with injuries and will start camp on the PUP list, those are going to be left guard Joe Thuney, defensive end Charles Omenihu, defensive tackle Derek Nottie, and cornerback Jalen Watson. No huge surprises here in this update. It would make sense that BJ Thompson starts out on the NFL's non-football injury list, considering the health scare he just had. If you kind of missed that during a meeting before an OTA practice, BJ Thompson had a seizure, went into cardiac arrest, and had to get stabilized at the hospital. He's obviously doing fine now, but they're still running him through a bunch of tests and procedures to see what was going on. And we will see what the future holds for BJ Thompson. Then for Joe Thuney, Andy said he's getting close to being ready to go after tearing his pec in the last playoff run the Chiefs just had. However, Thuney isn't quite there yet, so he's going to start out on the PUP list for training camp. Charles Omenihu, of course, is still rehabbing that ACL. Then Derek Nottie and Jalen Watson dealt with more recent injuries. Watson had off-season shoulder surgery. Derek Nottie tweaked something. Both of them, because of that, have not practiced or participated during OTAs. So hopefully a bit more time on the PUP, at least for Nottie, should be enough for him to be ready to go. Jalen Watson might take him a little bit more time as he nurses that shoulder as he recovers from that surgery. So those are the main guys dealing with injuries. Then you have 3 players, Leo Chanel, Najee Johnson, and Xavier Worthy, up at camp early with the plan of continuing to ease them in as they had dealt with some injuries prior. Najee Johnson coming off the ACL, and then Worthy with the hamstring tweak. Leo, off the top of my head, I can't remember, but they seem to be good to go from what I understand, including Worthy and his hamstring tweak. Anyway, with camp right around the corner, let me know in the comments down below who you are most excited to watch out for. Is it going to be the left tackle battle, Jared Wiley, Xavier Worthy, who gets the RB3 spot, maybe the cornerback battle on the defensive side of the ball? Let me know who and why, and until next time, let's freaking go. How about those?